want to at least make the regional. That'd be nice. I think that'd be an upgrade over the past result. So that's like short term. Make the regional. Hopefully 2 comps per map. It's possible. Right before the next qualifier. That's like the next goal. And I think that's all I want to like really focus on, and just age and diversity, which just comes with the 2 comps. Those are my 2 like short-term goals. And long-term, like, we'll see what happens. Like, hopefully we're just insane. Like that's the long-term goal. I mean, back then it was horrible. Like I couldn't do anything. I literally was so delayed, and I just had no idea what was happening. And like, you know, as a coach, like, you want to like pause, like if they lose like an insane round, like they just like lost like a 1v4 or something, and you want to like calm people down. You can't, because you just don't know what happened.
Not waste too much time. Obviously, fans of TSM will have seen that team make a couple of roster changes recently. Obviously, I think the Cutler news was pretty big. Taylor then was announced to be leaving the roster. And the most recent news we've seen is obviously they have acquired the coaching services of the illustrious Chet, who is joining us today on the interview. So thank you very much. Let's all welcome Chet to the show. Great to have you here, man. Yeah, really glad we can get some of your time today.
Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So you listen, man, like I think maybe for TSM, so TSM fans have a tendency, right, of like not knowing a ton about anything but their own team. They really love TSM, but then like anything else that they have no idea, especially don't know about other regions or other games. So you go back quite a while in Counter-Strike as a coach, man. So do you want to just sort of run us through your history, sort of, you know, working alongside some of the, you know, the greatest pro players, and yourself obviously have been a coach for quite a few years now?
Yeah, I mean, man, it's been a long, like 5-6 years. I don't even know where to start.
I mean, start with Optic, right? So we can go from there.
I mean, that's skipping a team or 2, but I mean, I was in CLG. That was like my first gig. You know, I had a lot of rookie players. I was like a rookie myself too. Like I never did anything pro back then. So that was like a really life-changing experience. I moved to LA. I was making like $500 a month on my contract in esports, because esports back then wasn't that lucrative.
Exactly.
So I took like a big risk, and I mean, I guess it paid off. Then I got like picked over to Optic from some like referrals from like, you know, word of mouth and all that. Mainly from like Hayes, actually. He like shouted me out to Optic, funny enough. And that's like where things really got started, because then that team had its own problems. Like it had like a bunch of Americans on it, and then all of a sudden all the Americans just left. And then I had no idea what I walked into when I joined that team. And we got a bunch of Europeans. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I'll probably get something out of it. And I did. Like I learned more about the people side of things in coaching than like purely looking at the game. So that was definitely like something I needed. So I would say Optic was like the best experience for me in terms of like developing myself. Maybe we didn't have like insane results on that team. We had like some okay ones. Then I moved on to Energy after that, which was like the highest point in my career, including EG, which was like the same roster, basically with like like couple changes like Daps, no Daps, and then like no Fugly, then Tarek. Those are like the only changes that we did in that lineup. Won a few international lands, like I think like 4 in total, 2 like really big A tier ones or S tier ones, and honestly, like those are like the memories that I will never forget, because we traveled a lot in that team. Like we were barely home, and it's kind of like a blessing and a curse. Like a lot of people want to travel, and then a lot of people don't want to travel. But then like when you get to like traveling a lot, you miss home, and it's just a mess. And then you never end up practicing as a pro team, because you're just traveling all the time instead of having time to practice. And it's just like it's taught me a lot about like balancing life. That team, like I learned a lot of just like how much taking a break really means when you're a professional. Like you need to take breaks, or you're just done. you just can't play. So
so
that's
at least
been my journey, pretty much.
Awesome, yeah. And then I think you had like one short stint with 100 Thieves, without mistaken. But at that point, at least with EG and NRG, which is pretty much the same roster as you mentioned before, you get to build that friendship. But as you said, it was a lot of traveling as a team, right? For Energy and EG. Is that mainly a reason why you made a switch over to Valorant, where looking at the state of NACS was like kind of dead at this point, or at that point, because it's starting to revive a bit? Was it like a decision you had to make with like, do I still want to travel more versus do I want to stay home? Or were the opportunities a little bit more scarce in terms of like coaching and continuing your career within CSGO?
So when I was in 100 Thieves and I left preemptively because I had a
Yeah.
feeling the scene was dying. So in my head, I was like, is it worth staying another like 3 or 4 months with these Australian players and like, we'll play like a few more events and maybe we'll go to a new org together and live in
Mhm.
Europe, which I'm fine with. Like, I don't really care about
Okay.
living in Europe or NA. Like, I pretty much lived in Europe for like multiple years, traveling all the
Yeah.
time, so it didn't
Yeah.
affect me. But honestly, the main reason why I switched was just the developer. I was like, CS:GO doesn't care at
Mm.
all, and I don't see like how the money is gonna get better for anyone in the scene. I don't see how like they're gonna patch the game and make it more interesting. And whenever they do patch the game, they like make a bunch of problems and then they fix it like a year later. Like, and I saw like Riot as an opportunity. Like, even though like I played League of Legends in the past, I'm sure everyone has, and they regularly update their game. They're very active in the esports scene.
Yep.
Yeah.
They rarely leave things up to like external third party services, which is like maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing. But at
Yep.
least you have some directioning. So that was like the biggest like motivator for me to switch was literally just because Riot was running Valorant and pretty much nothing else. Like, it had nothing to do with like contracts, money, opportunities. Like, I had the same opportunities in both games.
Okay.
I had the same money in both games. I took a pay cut coming to Valorant, so
Sure.
it's like, yeah, it mainly just like me thinking long term. Like, it's just all long term.
I really appreciate hearing that the same opinion on Valve and Counter Strike. It really speaks to me. Yeah, so talking about the transition from Counter Strike to Valorant, what are the challenges like? Because obviously now you're coming into a game that it's not the same game that it was 10 years ago. Obviously, it didn't exist 10 years ago, but every 2 months, we're getting potential massive meta shifts in between that. Every 6 months, a new map. There's a lot of different things happening in Valorant, whereas in Counter Strike, painting it with a broader brush, if you take a 2-year break, you'll come back to pretty much the same game. What are the challenges like then, swapping between those two games? And have you found Valorant to be more difficult or more the same?
I mean, the challenge when I swapped over, well, first of all, I was making a roster. That was incredibly difficult because there's such a lack of players, and we couldn't buy players because orgs just weren't selling, and
Yep.
most players like don't put buyouts in their contracts. They
Mm.
just see like money and then they just sign. So that was like the biggest
Sure.
problem, and it's still like true to this day. Like, players just are stupid and they just don't like think about their contract long term. So that was like the biggest problem. Like, we just kept trying to like free agent players like just over and over, and there wasn't much time because there was like first strike and all that. Like, when I first
Mm.
swapped, so we had like a month, maybe less, to like figure things out and adapt to the game, which was like people already ahead of us. So in the beginning, like, definitely a struggle. We definitely didn't know what we were doing. I'm not gonna sit there and pretend like I'm ready for like my team to like call out ultimates and Sova darts and all that. Like, I wasn't ready for it personally. Uh, but now I would say I'm pretty like good with it. And as far as meta shifts go, I think that's what keeps the game interesting. And like, if you're smart enough, you can adapt pretty well. But yeah, it's like in CS, like, it's pretty textbook. You don't have to like do too much. You can just like
Mhm.
watch like Astralis and like, or whoever is
Copy
a
it.
good team now, and just copy it. And like Valorant, you have to like figure it out, and like maybe what you figured out is still not the best. And then even if you perfect what you have, then like next patch, like, it might just like not even matter.
Mm.
You just have to be the best team at adapting. Uh, I think there's some teams that you can tell that are like pretty good at adapting to, like Envy.
Mhm.
So they're like consistently like top four. They might not have like won anything yet, but they're like consistently always getting good results. And even Sentinels, I guess, to a degree, like they always get like good results. They're pretty consistent. And they pretty much play like how they like to play. So in this game, you kind of have to like just establish what you like, and then just hope it fits in your place. Like hope it fits in that meta, and then if it doesn't, then you kind of have to adapt really hard because some teams just get screwed. Like if you like FaZe, like they didn't make it in this like regional to Masters. Like they didn't even get like close. They like lost to T1. I honestly think the meta change kind of screwed them a little. Like the Astra, like kind of slows down their play style. So maybe they didn't adapt that well. I'm not sure. I have to like look more in detail to their games, but you can just tell like certain meta changes are gonna affect teams more than others, and that's like the biggest difference in CS. Like whenever you add a new gun in CS or a new map in CS, like it doesn't really matter. Like the Astralis is still gonna own like whoever's owning right now online Gambit or whatever is they're gonna own because the game's the same.
Yeah. Actually, to continue on that with another question here, Chet, then, because we talk about the meta ever shifting and whatnot, and you were just saying in Counter-Strike you could just copy Astralis. So in your mind, when you're trying to build these strats for now TSM, back then even Energy, is it like, hey, we got to copy Vision Strikers and then just apply it, or now do you have the extra layer of you having to talk with the IGL, then being Daps, now potentially here being Hazed, to figure out like, do we build our own meta? Do you guys are you looking to build your own meta, or are you still looking to aspire from like different regions to find like the best thing? Because right now we talk about the Astra / Viper / Pulse Plant meta. Is this something that's that seems to work in your eyes as a coach, not necessarily the play style for TSM, but like, do you think that's the way to play the game now?
I mean, I don't think there's one best way to play. Like, sure, like it's a meta for a reason. Like, people like they try to get on the site as quick as they can with the least utility, and they just play like Viper post play and Killjoy mollies, Brimstone molly. Like everyone just plays like they pretty much they pretty much just play to not shoot. But then you can like you can play like a meta where like you're gonna fight them and like interrupt their default before like they can set up to do all that. So it's like when I like watch teams, I don't like sometimes it might be easy to copy their like their meta, like their comp. It's like might be easier to like copy like what they do and like all their defaults and all that. Like that stuff's really easy to do, but it might not fit like the players you have. Like on TSM we have Wardell, right? And he is an opper, and a lot of teams don't really have oppers, or at least good ones. And like we have to cater to having a really good opper because like that's like a strength of my team. And a lot of those comps that people are doing, they don't even have like an opper in mind, and it just kind of like ruins the flow if you like copy straight one for one. So like I might take inspiration from a comp and like, oh, maybe they're running this comp because it beats like this slow play, or it's better for like maybe on bind this comp is better for like TPing and like crunching things. But like I have to like just take inspiration. I can't just like straight up copy things like in CS I could copy things and it would be easier. I kind of just use it like to just see what's good and like kind of understand why they're doing the things they're doing, and then I try to see if I can mold that into what I want to do. And that's pretty much like my thought process when I do things.
Awesome.
I just want to circle back a little bit, of course, obviously. We haven't really talked a bunch about your time on NRG, not specifically anyway. You said that like the landscape for acquiring players in Valorant is kind of weird, right? Because there's all these weird buyouts and you know, players sort of not really understanding their contracts. How did you go with sort of building the NRG roster? Because obviously, you know, it sort of coincides with you departing that they sort of make the changes. Obviously, Android joins the team, and then after that, we see Tex get on board. But are you sort of, you know, are you sort of referring to your time with that roster, trying to put that team together? You know, does that have anything to do with your choice to move on? Can you maybe tell us about what provoked that decision from you?
I mean, it was pretty personal, so it's some things I might not go into.
That's fine.
But I mean, I guess with the player things, like there's like a lot of rumors of like the ESIC thing.
Yeah.
And we tried a lot of players that had those rumors surrounding them, and it's just kind of like it's hard, man. Like it's hard not knowing like what the future might hold. Like that definitely like influenced my decision a little bit. It wasn't the main factor, but it's just like I don't know, man. Like there's a lot of players on a lot of teams right now that like have these rumors around them, and you just like don't know.
Mm.
Like who knows? Like I don't know if this report is ever coming out. Like it's scary, man. If you're a coach and like you're a team right now and those players get banned, like I don't know what you do. Like
It
you
would be
just
tough.
can't buy. Yeah, you just can't buy anyone. You have to literally dip into like the free agency area, and those players are way more inexperienced. So you're gonna have to
Yeah.
take like a longer project.
Mm. So it goes into this, and the longer project at this point is now going to be TSM, right? Because you recently just got announced as a TSM coach, and just before you were talking about, hey, the greatest strength right now that we have is having Matt, having Wardell as an operator for the team, and there was a lot of strategies in the past made around Wardell with the operator. So that's their biggest strength. But with the biggest strength of TSM came a lot of no results, unfortunately. No high showings towards the end of the year of 2020, beginning of the year of 2021. So where do you see is currently the biggest weakness of TSM that you want to work on first?
Well, I guess piss arounds is like obvious, I guess, because they
Sure.
definitely struggle with that. And piss arounds in this game like have high impact,
Yeah.
definitely.
In MR12, yeah.
Yeah, it's way too high impact. So definitely focusing on that probably like next week. The main thing I've been focusing on is kind of like getting people out of their comfort zones and like trying new agents. And Hayes was doing that before I even got on the team. Like
Yep.
we are trying to like Wardell on different agents. Like that's not Jet. We're trying like drone on new stuff. Like everyone's like pretty much trying new things
Hmm.
and just trying to like we're trying to like more teamwork based comps instead of like the standard like double duelists.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying like we threw it away or anything, but like we just want to have like a secondary comp to like fall back onto
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
in case like it makes more sense to run that one versus another team, and then the double duelist versus a different team.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just playing around with the idea. So the first week and a half that I've been with the team, I'm kind of just like putting people on different agents, and we'll just discuss about like defaults and all that. Just pretty much like bare bones basic things about those comps, and then if we like it and we feel like it's something we want to roll with, we talk about it at the end of the week, and then we're just gonna see like what's the strength and weaknesses of those comps and like where we think we can get the most value from those comps. So we're just experimenting. That's pretty much that I think the team needs is just help the players grow as much as they can by like trying new agents, and then just seeing like how those new agents will help us win more consistently.
Yep.
Obviously, we talked
Triple
about
duelist.
TSM failed to make it through to Masters, and I'm wondering, looking at Masters, how do you think that because I presume you watch a lot of different regions as well when we talk about looking at different comps and how they're
Yeah.
going to operate, although you do kind of want to build your own meta a lot of the time. It can always be helpful to look at those, as we said. Do you see anybody that's kind of greatly underestimated? Because we were talking about Masters earlier on, and it seemed like some people, highly rated Sentinels. Other people are realistic and think New Turn are going to beat them. Or Fnatic going to destroy them in the series. Where do you think the sort of the tiers are right now within international levels?
And that's definitely hard because
Mhm.
I watch all of them, and they all they all have metas that fit their region specifically.
Yeah.
Like Europe is like pretty execute heavy. There's not that much aggression if you compare it to America. Like those teams like allow other teams to execute and like do all their crazy like Viper like ultimates and all that. Like they don't. There's no interruption in Europe. I feel like, or there's not that much of it.
Okay.
Whereas in America, I feel like there's constant fights, and you rarely get to go to the executes cleanly. Whereas like Europe, they're pretty clean. Like it's 5v5 or like 4v4. And then
Yeah.
and like all these different regions, like it's just so hard to pair like where it is. But if I had to take a guess, like I honestly think Fnatic will win the Masters, and if it won't be Fnatic, then maybe Sentinels, just because I'm not sure how the EU NA is going to match up. Because I think the aggression might match up well against the EU teams, but I think overall the EU teams have a more consistent style in terms of like how they play and how they layer their defenses on CT sides or my defense sides, and
We will
and
be
on their
ignoring.
on
All
their,
Counter-Strike casters from the past. So,
Yeah.
on their attacking sides, like I just feel like EU teams have a better structure, but sometimes the structure in this game, I feel like sometimes it doesn't matter because when there's like a jet dash and like Reyna like
Yep.
going off on tens, like it doesn't matter. And those are like the agents that disrupt things. So like I think Jet is like always gonna break all the metas no matter what, which is why the
Mhm.
character is really good. Like it just breaks every setup. It breaks like it doesn't matter
Breaks the
what meta
rules
it
of
is.
FPS at times.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Phoenix Ultimate as well. Like Phoenix Ultimate breaks all the FPS rules as well.
Yeah.
So, like when people from NA run those things and play against these other comps, if they're just good individually that day, they might just win. But it's not
Mhm.
as consistent, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, it kind of just I kind of think EU's on top if I had to rate consistency than NA. And then as far as like Korea and Brazil go, I kind of like I'm not sure. I might put Korea above Brazil for
Okay.
now. I haven't
You know,
watched too much Brazil. I've mainly watched more Korea, so it's hard to tell. And I guess I'd put Japan like underneath all.
Kind of
sure.
There you go. See,
kind of makes me sad that the Gambit didn't make it through, because I really wanted to see a CIS team purely because CIS is like the NA of EU. I would love to see like Defo coming up against Sentinels, just running at guys. Oh, it would have been beautiful. But I like that
I mean,
point
you
a
could have
lot.
just asked for G2, man. I mean, you want DM at Masters, and yeah, get them boys in. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about the roster, because I think TSM fans probably been a little bit confused as to kind of, you talked about like what you're working on right now, which I think is awesome.
Mhm.
But obviously, you know, initially when Brax gets brought into the team, it seems like Hayes is sort of sidelined a little bit, or at least he just, you know, there were some games that he was sort of subbed out and wasn't part of, and then he comes back in, and then we hear that sort of Cutler is obviously departing from the team. I want to talk a bit about Hayes though, because you know him, you guys go way back. I think a lot of fans or even non-fans of TSM have definitely doubted him. But I want to know what your thoughts are on like his potential, what he sort of adds to the team, and you know, obviously he wasn't the one that was cut; it was ultimately Cutler. So you know, maybe what you see his place being in this team going forward, and if you don't mind, how you think Brax fits into all this.
Okay, I'll start with Hayes. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, from in my opinion, I think he works pretty hard. Like I don't really have to ask him so far, at least. I don't have to ask him about like watching VODs and like creating strats like on his own. Like if we discuss a bunch of things in a server, like we did the other day,
Mhm.
he kind of takes it upon himself to like work on it and like figure it out as much as he can before like he needs to come to me. So I kind of appreciate that. It takes like a little bit of load off my end,
Mhm.
so I can focus on other people. I mean, I think individually, I think he's good. I don't know what
Mhm.
other people think outside of the scene, but I think in general he can shoot like just as good as other people, which is nice because you kind of need that firepower in a team, like general consistency all across the entire roster. I mean, I think his agent pool diversity is pretty good. Like he's pretty much down to play anything when it comes like Sentinel, Smokes, Viper.
Yep.
Like he'll play anything.
Sage in the past, yeah.
You kind of need someone that on the team is very flexible, which is why like I want to make other people on the team as flexible as him.
Yep.
And then as far as Brax goes, I haven't had too much time to work with him. I'm obviously not going to say like what he's playing right now or anything,
Yeah, of
but
course.
as for Brax goes, like he pretty much right now is just listening to like what I'm saying. Like he's kind of absorbing that. Like if I send him like a document of a bunch of things, he learns it pretty quickly. Like I don't have like he has like good clutching potential. Like he had like a really sick 1v4 in our scrim the other day against like well I won't say against who, but it was against a very good team.
Almost.
Yeah, it was against a very good team, and I was very impressed. Like he knows how to like keep his cool and like clutch it. So I think setting him up in those kind of scenarios is like definitely something we should play to if possible. But yeah, those are the values I see in those players, and hopefully we just keep getting them better and better as time goes on.
Yeah, I think I kind of see where you're coming from. I remember when, you know, I think TSM one of the first teams who tried the sort of the to use a bunch of the Sage that we saw in Europe again. Like it didn't look great initially, but they seemed like they were willing to try some new stuff, which is kind of sick. Obviously, you know, good to get your thoughts on what's going to happen to Masters. Many TSM fans hope to see you guys involved in it. So, you know, before we wrap this up, Chet, I know you've got to run, but
I got
what's
like
next for you
20
guys? Obviously,
minutes if you want.
okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Hell
I want
yeah.
to know at least, you know, obviously we know what you're working on with the team here. What is your short-term goals with TSM? Sort of what should fans expect to see from this team, especially with you at the helm and these changes being made? You don't have to promise the world to your fans, but I'm sure everyone's wondering what the
I want to at least make the regional. That'd be nice. I think that'd be an upgrade over the past result. So
Mhm.
that's like short term. Make the regional. Hopefully 2 comps per map if it's possible. Right before the next qualifier. That's like the next goal. And I think that's all I want to like really focus on, and just age and diversity, which just comes with the 2 comps. Those are my 2 like short-term goals. And long-term, like we'll see what happens. Like hopefully we're just insane. Like that's the long-term goal.
Question for you then, Chet, in terms of like just coaching in general, with now coaching slots being available, right? Because your time with NRG, when you were coaching with NRG, we didn't have coaching slots yet, and I guess as a coach, it's kind of difficult to prepare for a team to get ready for a match, and you have to watch a stream that's delayed from like 2 minutes. So how does that work about the timeouts? Do you actually have a say in that, or is just like I'm gonna prepare as much in terms of my team, and then the timeouts is just going to be discussed within the team? How does that work within the coach, and how does it work now that we have the coaching slots for you?
I mean, back then it was horrible. Like I couldn't do anything. I literally was so delayed, and I just had no idea what was happening. And like as a coach, like you want to like pause, like if they lose like an insane round, like they just like lost like a 1v4 or something, and you want to like calm people down. You can't, because you just don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Until like minutes later. So that sucks. So yeah, it was pretty much about like I pretty much like was preparing like plans in timeout beforehand, which was like pretty risky because you don't know what comp the other team's running, because a lot of people just change comps straight up in this game, so you have no time to prepare like on what they're doing. So you're kind of just guessing and going with the flow like of the game if they do change something. Those are generally horrible. You can't really see what's happening on like every part of the map. You just don't know. And you don't know what utility's been thrown. You don't know unless you just hear like through the communication, which maybe things get lost in the comms. But like compared to now, it's way better. Like it's real time. Like I get to see like everything that happens. There's a lot less like a big trend with players before was like things would be unlucky if they died. Like before the coaching slots, but like now it's like it's not as unlucky as they made it seem.
No, you just took an ego duel and got shit on.
Yeah. So like that's like the best part. Like you gotta like just see everything. Like I gotta like finally like be in the server and like be a part of the team. Which before it was awful, man. It was terrible. I was like, man, like you didn't even need a coach last year.
Yeah. Don't say that. Don't say that. So you paid, bro.
No, I know, but like now,
his boss isn't fucking Artur Minikov. He's already been paid. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Oh
fuck.
That's a sensitive topic.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So on a lighter note too, there was actually a question from the chat here from MemeMeister6. You don't have to confirm this at all, but the rumor apparently is that can you confirm that Stanislaw is going to retire from Counter-Strike to start playing Valorant with Energy?
Nah, that would probably never happen. Of everything I know, that would never happen.
There you go. I mean, it wasn't, and I can't answer this kind of answer, MemeMeister. So you actually. Yeah, there you go. You actually got a decent answer.
There you go.
Thank you. Hey, Chet, we're gonna move on with the show. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep these two pricks here forever. Thank you so much for joining us, though, man. And yeah, it's great to have you on the show. We'll hope to have you back in a few months, hopefully, and check back in on how the roster's doing, man.
Yeah, we'll talk again when we got Masters 3, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'll see you there.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Berlin, baby. All right, thank you very much, Chet. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, okay. So you look, we always talk about TSM on the show. I give TSM fans shit for just being so obsessed about TSM, and then they're the only ones that we ever really talk about on the show as well. I don't know. I think I have a man crush on Hayes. I think that's my excuse. So, yeah, I just want to. And also, he has amazing reaction gifs. Hayes has the sickest library of like reaction images and gifs. Like they're all anime related.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how many of them I downloaded for my own use later and have used, and not credited him for. And just they've just banged. So thanks. Here's your credit, Hayes. Nice.
Just fucking happy, dude. I'm looking forward to seeing TSM fucking kick ass again, dude. It's been a long time coming.
Mitch is like these fucking peasants in there.
I was watching Mitch fucking like grin from ear to ear when it's like, yeah, Fnatic's probably gonna win it all. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what
I was looking at you, Vancilia. I was like, yeah, what did you say in the break? Huh? You know, my favorite memory actually of Hayes is we were at First Strike. We were working the event. You know, we finished. We do our debrief, all this. So you're there another hour and a half kind of after show finishes. And NA had already started. So we go back to the hotel. We sit down. Myself and Hypock and Jonas go back to my room. We're chilling out. We turn on the the NA stuff. And as it's booting up, right, we had, I think, 200 kilobyte per second Wi-Fi. It was amazing. So as it's like buffering for a couple minutes, I'm on Twitter and I see it. I think it was a tweet from Hazed himself saying like, people say I have slow reaction time, whatever, but I feel crisp, blah blah blah. And when it loaded, it was him with a Vandal peeking out onto short on bind and getting killed by a classic long range while he waved the mag. And I was just like, that's perfect. That is perfect. It was poetic.
Oh, fuck.
I mean, yeah. Let's. I mean, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing them improve. They got Brax on the team. I think they have high expectations because of that, and because Hayes is the one that doesn't get kicked off the island, right? I think we knew that there was a boomer would have to go to the gallows here. I mean, one of them would, and seeing it, being Cutler as well. Now people definitely expect to see more from Hayes. Yeah. Good luck, TSM. I'll be watching, no doubt about it.